All right. Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? What is today? Wednesday, February the 12th, 2020, and I am Jack Heald, the dad you wish you had. And today, the title of our show is Everybody Wants to Rule the World. But first, before I get into it, let's pause a moment, drink a toast to this precious present moment. It is good to be alive. I voted in 9 presidential elections so far in my life. My first one was in 1980. The contest was between Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. We were told then that this was the single most important presidential election in the history of the country, and we've been told the same thing for every presidential election since then. So pardon me if I don't get all wound up about who gets elected president this time around. Something else. We are told that our country has never been so divided. Sorry, not buying it. I remember Kent State. Y'all young kids ever heard of Kent State? Kent State University in Ohio, May 4th, 1970. The National Guard had been called out to Kent State because the ROTC building on campus had been burned down by protesters, apparently, although that story at the time was a little murky and the details are irrelevant. Long story short, the protesters and the National Guard came together, and the National Guard fired on a group of college students, killing 4 and crippling another one and injuring a lot. In other words, American soldiers fired on American students and killed them. Now tell me that we're that divided. We're not. I remember Martin Luther King being assassinated. In fact, that's actually my first political memory, April 5th, Tennessee. Martin Luther King was a leader with a moral stature in the country that, with half of the country, was unparalleled, and for the other half of the country, he was considered maybe a criminal. We were deeply divided. 55,000 college-age students died in the country of South Vietnam, which most Americans couldn't even find on a map prior to 1965, in a war that wasn't declared and with no clear aim other than stopping the spread of communism, whatever that meant. 55,000 American boys died in that war. And there were protests in college campuses all across the country. They weren't protesting the use of pronouns or transgendered bathrooms or phantom racism. They were protesting their sons, their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, their cousins being conscripted to go fight and die in a war that nobody could really exactly understand what the end goal was. We were divided. So compared to then, things are just kind of emotional now. Just not nearly what we went through in the late 60s and the early 70s. Nevertheless, it is the nature of being a young adult to want to make the world a better place. Everybody wants to change the world. I know I was like that. I definitely thought that the older generation had screwed it all up and handed us a mess, and it was up to us to fix astonishing things that I've found over my 40 years of adulthood. Is as terrific as my ideas were for fixing the world somehow managed to stumble on without me. And I also learned that I was not particularly adept at fixing myself. Now, as it turns out, if you want to make the world a better place, there is one absolutely positive, 100% guaranteed way For you, where you sit right now in your chair, listening to my words, watching me on your computer or your phone, you can make the world a better place. If this is a 100% guarantee. If you do this one thing, you will make the world a better place. Fix yourself. If you're not willing to fix yourself, then I don't want to hear any more about you wanting to make the world a better place. Shut up. Making the world a better place starts with controlling what you can control, and that is you. You have control over you. And if you're not the person you know you can be or the person you know you should be, and you're out telling all the rest of the world that they need to fix themselves and aren't doing it yourself, you're a hypocrite and you don't mean what you say. The proof of your beliefs is in your actions. Fix yourself, and you are guaranteed to make the world a better place. Some fatherly words from the dad you wish you had. I'm Jack Hill.